Okay. Yeah, I wanted to start with any questions from last time. Since this is smaller, we can get a little bit more intimate, answer some more stuff. I can stay 3 hours this time instead of 2. But anything confusing from last time or anything that you guys want to make sure I at least touch on, I can write up on the board. Did anybody make any changes from last time, or at least think about making changes? Good. I'm gonna recap a couple things that I had questions on, at least from the first stuff, and then we'll dive into part 2. Part 2, we're gonna handle personal care products, and then a little bit of Q&A. Whatever questions you guys have, I'm more than happy to answer. And of course, as you guys all know, leave whenever you need to leave, because these tend to go on for as long as you guys like them to, and I'm never offended if you have to get up and leave. So the big concepts from last time was detox starts in the cell, right? And I used a couple of analogies. I used the bucket analogy. Did that one tend to make sense for you guys? That we all start at a different level of filled up buckets when we're born, and then the little things that we do over time continue to drip into the bucket. But as long as we can get some of the stuff out of the bucket along the ways, that helps, and then stop pouring things in the bucket is the other thing that we've generally put. Cell membrane and environmental importance. Fishbowl, I don't know if I got into that analogy, but if I had a fishbowl here with fish living in it, what would the fish want to be in that bowl? Food, air. How about water? Water, right? If I chose Doritos and I chose Coca-Cola and I chose some other medium for them to breathe, would that make the fish healthier or sicker? Sicker, right? So it's a very simple visual to think there's very basic things that we need, there's very basic things that the cell needs, and if the fish started to morph, right, or adapt to the Coca-Cola and the Doritos, and its stomach changed and it had all these tumors, would we look at the fish and go, man, the genetics of that fish were just really bad, and just man, their parents must have passed down bad genes? Or would we just look at the food and the environment, right? And that's the importance of when you look at cells. All cells, they were designed by what you believe in, which I believe that God designed these cells, and the accumulation of these cells specialize, but the basic parts of the cells are the membrane, the nucleus. But the biggest thing I want you guys to get is everything around this cell is what's important to the cell. It needs nutrients that make it inside that membrane. Fair? It needs to take waste products that it just generally creates and eliminates those. Fair? And then on this membrane, it has all these little receptors that are meant for different hormones and different parking spots, if you will. And these need to be protected so that when hormones and things want to communicate with the cell, they can find it and tell the cell what to do. So the focus always has to stay, when we talk detox or when we talk health, is how well are the individual cells doing? Because if cells are doing well, tissues are doing well, organs are doing well, we're doing well, right? So again, oversimplify, but never forget environment matters, because if this is a crappy environment, Doritos, Coca-Cola, chemicals, then what you're doing is you're creating rancid cells that now have to either adapt to whatever its signal, whatever kind of makeshift signal it can get. It disconnects from our overall perspective of life, where the brain's trying to send signals to this, and we're having neurotransmitters trying to talk to this, and it's blocked. So it acts as its own organ, if you will. And if it's acting and duplicating as its own organ, and you start seeing these cells duplicate that are foreign or not communicating with the overall body, an accumulation of cells that keep replicating out of control and not connected to the body, what do they call that? If you have a lot of cells that just keep accumulating into one spot and they're disconnected and they're not listening to anything, it's a tumor. And so these are just doing their job as replicating, but they are disconnected from what do they need to replicate into? What should they turn into? What do they need to do? They're just adapting to environmental stuff. So environment's important, and I want to make sure you guys take that away, because Again, the air we breathe is important. The food we put in our body, anything we put in our body, around our body, is important. We want to remove the sources. So cookware, hopefully you guys started thinking about the things that we talked about last time on what you need to change cookware-wise. We talked about getting rid of the microwave. We talked about getting rid of Teflon pans. We talked about, I don't know if we talked about what you store things in, the plastics. I think we talked a little bit about that.
Is it only Teflon? There's a lot of non-stick cookware that's not Teflon.
Yes, be careful with all non-stick. And what I mean by that is by the time it gets studied, if it's chemically driven, essentially, like there's chemicals that make it slick, then at some point in time, we're going to go, man, that chemical caused A, B, C, D. It might be 10 years, 15, 30 years from now, right? Where we can start to link it. Just like all the things that when they used to, and we're kind of heading back to this, where they're spraying down kids with stuff to get into schools. Now they're trying to get back into that with like this COVID stuff. Where we're trying to spray kids to get into classrooms. It's just, it gets out of control, and we won't know enough for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So be careful with that stuff. But even what you store your food in. So I'm not a big fan of aluminum foil. Aluminum's a heavy metal. Aluminum we want to avoid in general with deodorants and things that you'll find. So if you're storing food and it's touching aluminum, guess what's leaching into the food? A little bit of aluminum. Aluminum cans, minimize your exposure to that. We're never going to be perfect, but if we can start being conscious about that, even these plastic bottles that we drink out of, is this the best idea? No. So we want glass, we want filtered water, but you want to pick and choose battles and not get too crazy. So we talked about tap water, making sure you're getting filters on your shower, making sure you're at least doing some level of filtration on your water. Those are little things that go a long way. We talked about a whole house water filter system. So I like that because anything that, you're cleaning your clothes in water, you're cleaning your dishes with water, you're cleaning your body with water. So you're cooking with water. If that's all filtered, then again, you're minimizing exposures to fluorine and chloride and all those other things. And then of course the frankenfoods that we talked about, which are anything that man has messed with. And there were a couple key things that confused people, so I did want to touch on these when it comes to foods. This was an advanced concept. So I don't want you guys worried too much about this and just and avoiding real food. Does that make sense? Like when I'm saying, and just to reiterate what I was saying here is, there's 4 food groups that you should not eat with each other. You want to eat these by themselves. 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 If you're not going to eat these by themselves, you have one other option, which are neutral foods, which are listed over here. Okay? Other than these, if you're going to have fresh fruit, just eat fresh fruit, right? Don't eat fresh fruit and steak. Does that make sense? But don't be so hard on yourselves like, hey, my salad that's all real food doesn't fit these rules. That's okay. That's an advanced concept, but it is something to consider if you're like, man, I'm doing really well, and I still am having some digestive stress or some bloating or my energy's low. Then you might want to look at the combinations of your foods. Any questions on that? Because I got like 2 or 3 people that asked about that.
I mean, a salad often has fresh fruit and nuts in it.
Right.
Seeds, and you're saying that's bad or only bad if we're having digestive issues?
It's in general, they don't digest well together. So bad's probably the wrong term. What I want you guys to get is those are real foods, and that's better than cheeseburger, French fries, and highly processed chemical sprayed stuff. Like, don't even worry about this. But if you're like, I want to be the best of the best, then the way our body's set up is to not eat the salad with those combinations. We would take away nuts and just go salad with fresh fruits, and that's it for that salad, right? Or we would go salad with chicken, right? We wouldn't put the nuts. And that was my example of like, man, if you look at one of my salads, it breaks all of those rules,
yes,
right?
That is fine.
Yeah, but that's okay, right? That's an advanced sort of thing to think. That's why I re-brought that up. Don't harp on that too much, but it is an interesting thing when you think, man, I'm doing everything perfect. There may be some things that you're missing. Go ahead.
So what you're saying, I would like to know an example of, for example, breakfast.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure we all have ate, like, okay, boiled eggs and my bananas or strawberries
Yep.
or blueberries, and then either regular bread or wheat or whatever. And I thought
Everything's great. Yes, and it is. So this is where I always use the like, there's bad for you, then there's healthier, then there's healthiest. So like you're on, and as long as you're doing this, but your next step might be to go, hey, on paper, I'm at whatever. If this is level 10 out of 10, awesome. You might be at level 8, and you're like, everything's really good. You're eating real foods. You know, there's nothing processed. Everything looks really good. Ingredients are good. There's no chemicals. But now you're like, to take it to the next level, you might start looking at it and go, I'm just going to eat boiled eggs and not the toast and the other things that come along with that. And that was some of the mono dieting that I was talking about, where you can just singularize food to like, I'm just going to eat one food group for that meal.
well, I tried that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do my best. So I ate 5 boiled eggs.
Yeah.
And I was hungry within like 45 minutes.
And that
I'm
can,
like, okay, so what is next? 45 minutes later, an hour later, can I eat just fruits?
you got it. Yeah.
Right?
So now you could still even stay in that one category. So you can vary it usually after 30 minutes to an hour, so that 45 minutes, you're perfectly fine to now introduce other stuff. Now, or you could have had like the boiled eggs and jump over to this category, and you could add to that, like I want to say avocados is also a neutral. So like that's another thing where you can now add some fat into that, and now that again is still, we're going to want to look at like we can start again, level 9, level 10, look at your macros and look at calories and look at all kinds of other things that come along with that. But that's excellent that you started that process. Yeah.
Is boiled eggs, would that be considered animal protein?
I'd put that in the protein. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we'll go past that because that was last time, but I want to make sure if there are more questions on that, definitely continue to ask. I talked about this and people asked me a little bit about this on just the steps. You don't have to go in this order. This is more of a reset, a food detox sort of pathway. I love starting with the hardest thing, right? Not eating anything is pretty hard, right? Mentally even. And physically though, there's a significant amount of benefits to just letting your digestive system rest, not worry about food, use the excess and kind of clean things up. 1 days, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day. You can go, you know, there's people that go a long time without eating anything and just water. Don't do that unmonitored. We would need to talk about that, but a 1 day or a 2 day, that's usually no issues with that. Then, guess how good juice sounds after you do that? Incredible. If you think like, oh, just drinking juice, that's gonna be really hard. Well, try just drinking water for 1 day. The juice the next day is gonna sound incredible, isn't it? And then you might be able to do this 2 days, 3 days, because you have something. And guess what's gonna sound good after when you're like, man, I wanna chew something. Now you start getting into adding in healthy foods, and I like like you wanna start with something that's easy on the digestive system. That's why I threw this in here, like a soup or a stew where you're not having to break down raw vegetables. You have something that's cooked and you do that for a little bit. Now again, getting into just shrinking your window to like, wow, I actually get to eat from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. where I wasn't eating here and here. So is this making sense? This is the logic behind it because you're looking at these little mini wins as you go, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is really easy to do, and you just keep going to like, I just want to eat real foods. That's where you're eating real foods. You're already here. If you want to reset, you can cycle back to the top. I always recommend like once a month, once a quarter, do this. Start at the top, work your way down. But really where you want to hang out is right here, in this real food formula, and you're just your lifestyle is 80% good stuff, and that 20% where it's like, yeah, I had pizza. Yeah, I had pasta. I had some bad stuff. But But you don't want this to slide the opposite, right? You want to stay 80 or better % good stuff.
Okay, your juice fast. Processed juice.
Ideally, again, so you want to look at the ingredients, and ideally mostly vegetable. So you don't want to go high fruit juice at all. However, sliding one of those, like a concoction of like, maybe it's more fruit juice. Like a good example, like apples are one of those that they're great for sweetness. They're great for just, you can mix them with all kinds of things and it kind of elevates the flavor. But you don't want to do just apple juice. You'd want like apple and kale and spinach. You could sneak all kinds of other vegetables in there and do that. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but Clean Juice is a company that just opened up down here on Forest Drive on this side of town. There's been one on Lexington that does juice fast where you don't even have to think about them. So they have an anti-inflammatory juice fast. You can do one day, you can do as many days as you want. They have a detox one, they have an immunity fast. So, and they set it up for you. So you say, I want to do the one day immunity fast. They give you 6 juices. And usually 1 or 2 of them is a milk, like a nut milk, so cashew milk and they taste delicious. So a cashew or an almond milk, something like that.
What's the name of it?
Clean Juice. And they have an app, really cool store. It just opened up where, you know that Lowe's grocery store on Forest Drive?
Yes.
Like right in that newer complex next to that. Yep, awesome. And awesome for fast. So actually after that last talk I did a 2-day juice fast from them. So I didn't have to think about making juice or anything. I'm gonna probably do another like 3 or 4 day, just go a little bit longer. So that was that. The other thing, you know, people ask like, what do you mean by real food? So when I say real food, I feel it's crazy we have to talk like what is real food, but like when you look at a Dorito, that's not real food, right? And I use the term, I stole this from somebody, it's edible food-like substances, meaning they're edible and they're like food, but they aren't food. Those are like things like Doritos and Cheetos and all these candies and things that are out there. So organic, I talked about the Dirty Dozen. If you want to save money, you can look that up on ewg.org. Tells you what's the most sprayed. If there's highly sprayed vegetables or fruits, buy them organic. If they're not, then you can kind of get away with conventional. Avoid genetically modified stuff. When it comes to meats, that's where you want to spend the bulk of your money. If you're looking for where should you spend the money. So wild caught fish, not farm raised. Grass-fed stuff, no antibiotics, no hormones, gardening, reading your labels. So just a kind of refresher on like, guys, food, just make sure it's food and it's recognizable. If it's not, and sometimes in a wrapper, it can still be food. So I don't want to just generalize that box stuff and wrap, but for the most part, that isn't food. But some of them can. Like there's some good companies out there that have boxed things and you look at the ingredients and it's like, oh, it's 3 real foods.
Is there a difference between seedless grapes and oranges as opposed to?
Yeah, see, that I want to, that's a great question because it's something I want to look more into if they've forced the modification of that or if that's something that happened in nature over time. Because I always get a little sketchy of things like, wait, this is a fruit that's supposed to have a seed that no longer has a seed. Who did that? Was that, you know, a botanist in a lab? And if so, what's the consequences of that down the road? And who knows, right? But nature can also do that. So that'd be a great, like, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I think that is something interesting to investigate. Food sensitivity testing, a lot of you did this, but just to reiterate, it's a test that we can do in the clinic, prick your finger, send it off, we get a full report. Those of you guys that did it should be in the next, probably by the end of this week or early next week, we'll be reviewing those. But it's really cool because as I just mentioned, you might be eating something that was good for you, but turns out it isn't. Common one that comes back is like boiled eggs, for example. It's like, oh, I have issues with eggs. And it might be in a lot of things that you're eating, but you don't really realize it. So now it's like, well, we got to cut that out, even though in general, they're good for you.
So how would that, what are the parameters? What are they measuring to say that the eggs are not good for you?
They're
For example?
great question. So they'll take your blood sample and they'll measure your immune response, your IgG response to the food. So in other words, if they test it on eggs and your blood reacts to it, and this is me kind of simplifying. I'm sure the process is a little bit more. But then they show that you have an immune response essentially to a food, indicating your body thinks that's foreign. And that's not where you want to be, even though it's, it should recognize eggs. It should recognize celery. It should recognize nuts. So that's why it's an incredible test that bothers me that this isn't done every year at your physical. This should be a test that's like, hey, I eat food. You should test what foods my body does well with, right? And then if I know, like, my body doesn't do well with these, just by merely avoiding those, you feel significantly better. More energy, less inflammation. Your immune system that wants to fight off bacteria and viruses and real foreign stuff isn't focused on the eggs and the stuff that you just ate, because you now know, I can't eat that. Now, sometimes you guys already know. Like, I'll give you an example. I used to eat ice cream a lot, and I would always get mucusy. I'd always get like my sinus and like I'd feel like, I feel like drainage, and I never really thought about it. And I was like, that's my immune system saying, you don't do well with ice cream. Stopped eating it, guess what I didn't get anymore? An immune response. When I did my food sensitivity testing, dairy came up, don't eat it. And it was just like your body talks to you. The problem is, we're all so sick, if you will, or used to feeling crappy, that it's normal for us. Whereas I use the example of like animals will eat something, their joints will hurt, or they'll throw up, or something will feel weird. They don't eat it ever again because they're like, that's not how I want to feel. They look at food more like fuel, where we look at it as like an emotional experience and connection and social and all this stuff, when it should be looked at as like, it's gasoline, right? I just need to put gas in my tank. So cool test if you guys want to get that. The last one to reiterate from last time before we move on is this toxicity thing. Did this make sense, or was this confusing to anybody that's still here? Because there were a couple of people that asked. Essentially what you want to do, or why this rebound effect occurs, where when you're bigger, your level of toxicity only fills up 50% of your body because you have excess fat cells to store toxins in. When you just get rid of the fat by, say, exercising, right? But you don't detox the chemicals, you've now concentrated it, and now 100% of your body is chemicals, even though you're thinner, so you feel worse. And then your body says, I don't want to feel worse, I like me better like this. And you gain the 5 to 10 to 15 pounds back. Does that make? So this is the difference here in like dieting and then cleansing. If you do this and you eliminate the chemicals, these little dots, you can stay like this. And that's why you want to be detoxing and eliminating things all the time so it doesn't just continue to build up. Not to mention what's already there, let's get rid of it. And that's what that product that I talked about, that daily detox or detox system, is nice, because it's just a simple way to get things moving out of your system. And I know a lot of you guys are taking that as well. Okay, real quick, what is a toxin? We talked about this. It's any substance that's harmful to the body. Key concept, though, is realizing and identifying your exposure. This was a big aha for me, because when I thought toxicity before, I thought like, oh, alcohol, oh, smoking, oh, like exhaust from cars. I didn't think this, right? I didn't think this. I didn't think any of this stuff, right? I just thought it's the big stuff. So take a look at this and tell me if this is anybody's before lunch. So this is a person that I just walked through. What do they do? Tell me if any of this resonates with you guys. You wake up, you get in the shower. So there's shower water. Remember we talked about shower water, 15-minute heated shower. It's like drinking 8 glasses of toxic water. So you're in the shower, you use soap. Do you guys know what's in your soap? Can you eat your soap? See, I never thought about that. So whatever I put on my body, it's gonna go in my body. Face wash, shampoo, conditioner, shaving cream, lotion, deodorant, perfume. For women, bleach, tampon. Does anybody ever, now again, this is one of those weird concepts, but think about that whole process and probably how nobody's really sat down and looked at that. And if you get deep in these rabbit holes, look up that and how much that's affecting women's health that's never discussed. And there are major companies now that are creating better systems for that, but it's a big one that I would say is overlooked from puberty on. And then we start looking at why cycles are irregular. We start then treating them with birth control and more chemicals. That's a big one. Laundry detergent, that's the scent that's on your clothes. Don't think about that. Toothpaste with fluoride, mouthwash, medications, if you have morning medications, hair gel, hairspray, blush, eyeshadow, eyeliner. So you can see this is a woman, but a lot of this men use. Foundation, lipstick, sunscreen, fake tanner, Febreze plug-in that you're just walking in a room. It's plugged into your house. Scented candles, non-organic coffee. Do you guys? So if the coffee's not organic, guess what they're doing to the beans? Spraying the heck out of it. It's one of the major places that pesticides and herbicides get into our body is our daily cup of joe. Bleached coffee filter that we push it through, right? With our unfiltered water. Processed fast food meat that they microwave. How many chemicals are coming from that? Not even going to list it. Rancid deep fried oil, the hash browns, GMO potato that they make it from, non-organic. You get in your car air freshener that you have dangling. Antibacterial gel that you put on your hands or that they want you to put on when you go to the grocery store. Cleaning sprays. EMF, electromagnetic frequency stuff like computers. A lot of the newer cars that are going more electronic, you're sitting in essentially a microwave that we're not, again, thinking about, and that's a whole other class or workshop. Blue light, radiation from cell phones, iPads, computers. Guys, this is before lunch, right? And see, that's why I said just identifying and being aware of the exposure that we go through and then wonder why all of a sudden we're sick, or all of a sudden my hormones are off, or all of a sudden I've become weight loss resistant, right? Do you think any doctor sits down and looks at any of this? But it goes back to whose responsibility is it to choose this stuff? And it's our responsibility. Like, you guys are here at the class. I'm talking to the wrong people. The people that aren't here need to hear this, right? Because you guys are seeking knowledge, and even if one thing changes, that's exciting, right? But heck, when you guys start getting down this pathway, you're going to not recognize yourself after a year of these changes, after 5 years, after 10 years, and you look back and go, wow, I remember when I used to have Teflon pans, and I remember when I used to use that mouthwash and have scented candles and all that stuff. So it's cool stuff when you start seeing this, but awareness. What do you guys see here? Most people see an average household pantry and products that you look at all the time. I know this from just anything that's a major brand that's very recognizable is already toxic. You don't even need to look it up. Okay, so that's one of those, skip it, okay? Just get rid of anything that is in this major brand category, because here's what I see, okay? I see hundreds of ingredients formulated that are known carcinogens, cancer causers. So it's not that we're guessing, it's literally chemicals that are found in there have been tested to be carcinogenic, meaning they could create cancer cells in human bodies. Allergenic causes allergies, immunosuppressants, destroying your immune system. These aren't things that are unknowns, not to mention that there's thousands of those. These are known chemicals that most countries ban, that we haven't, that are still in your products, that you think you're just every day just putting this on and not having any issues. They're still there. And the buckets are still being filled, and we just got to, again, we choose, we start to make these changes. I always like to reiterate, guys, that yes, we're marketed to. Yes, there is some subconscious things that I'm sure that get plugged in our brains by these marketers, but you choose what goes in and on your body, right? So we can't blame anybody when it comes to this stuff to just look at your products and go, all right, I know this isn't good for me. I need to make the changes. Chemical manufacturers don't care about your health. Your pharmaceutical companies sure as hell don't care about your health. And at the end of the day, you'll see when I go through some of these toxins where drugs fall in this. And I always think, like, this last little sentence I have here, even after drugs and chemicals are approved and went through all this testing, are we perfect with it? Do we just go, man, like, those things that were tested back in the 50s, we're still using them, and all the evidence shows that it's still great for the body? No, usually it is. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, can you believe we use this product, right? They were using mercury. Remember Mad Hatters? Putting mercury in hats, right? That is what I talked about last time, is like one of the most toxic substances on planet Earth. I think it's either one or two, that and arsenic. I mean, they're right up there. Known terrible for the body, yet we were using it and putting it on our skin. Heck, they're still putting it in our teeth, right? There are dentists that are still putting mercury and heavy metals in our teeth. Not a good plan, right? We'll touch on that a little bit. So, goal, to reiterate, stop the inflow, maximize the outflow, keep it simple, okay? So we're going to start with the minimizing. So minimize what's going in. Here's the order in which I'm going to go through some stuff, keeping it super basic, just things to look at. Skin products, cleaning supplies, medications, and I'm going to end with teeth, and then any sort of questions that you guys have. But this is all just to kind of open your guys' eyes to consider making some change. So what's the largest organ of the body? Skin, yep. Tried to trick you with the nervous system here. It's the skin. What controls the skin and all other organs?
Spine.
The nervous system, yes. So how important is the nervous system? Again, guys, the reason I got into chiropractic is when I started learning this simple, I'm not trying to jam, you guys are all patients in chiropractic, but understand that when your friends and family's health is compromised, I don't give them diet advice first. I don't give them detox advice first. You know what I tell them to do? Get an x-ray to see how much interference is on the system that controls all function of your body. My friends will call me up. Hey, I saw that you did this video on weight loss. What do you think I should do? Hey, did you get an x-ray of your spine? No. Okay, start there, then come back. Why? If I find interference and damage to the nerves going to the digestive system, how well are they going to digest food? How well are they going to digest the amazing supplements that we sell? How well are they going to detox if the detox organs have no electricity going them to the run? Guys, and it always sounds crazy to my friends, family, your guys' friends and family, but understand, it's not us saying this. It's literally Gray's Anatomy tells us the system that controls and runs and regulates all cells, tissues, and organs in your body is right there. The fact that we do more for our teeth than that is insane. Fair? Not you guys. You guys are doing something, right? But again, this is for those that maybe think you're crazy for coming to us, right? I always tell them, we'll put our health, we'll collectively take all of our patients, and heck, put out the doctors for sure up against any team of doctors, any team of patients, and then let's just measure up health, right? And see who's trending towards health and who isn't. That might be too cocky, but I stand by it. Things to consider, and we're going to go through all these, but again, and I touched on a lot of this in the what that person did before lunch stuff. It shows you, and I can get you this little sheet, but if you look into it, it'll tell you certain things on like how lipstick has allergies and links to cancer, how your foundation allergies, how your blush has carcinogenic things. So the skin absorbs 5 pounds of chemicals each year when you wear makeup on a daily basis. So most women put something on a daily basis. Some men even do that stuff. Within 26 seconds, makeup can be found in nearly every cell in your body. So think about that. It goes on your skin, on your face, on anything. It goes directly into your bloodstream, and then guess what? They find traces of it all over your body that quickly, right? 26 seconds, it's made a circle around, and it can be found everywhere. Over 1,500 chemicals banned in other countries. We've talked about that. But we're still using and selling them here. Nobody really cares because this is very low on the list of you come into a doctor's office, you have hormonal issues, none of them look at your shampoo. None of them look at anything that's hormone disrupting. It's weird to me to think that an endocrinologist probably has zero interest in any of this stuff. That's their specialty, right? I once went to a cardiologist because I was working out and I was like, my heart rate stays pretty high. I want to prevent heart issues. I thought he's the expert. Went to him, realized I know more about the heart than he does. Because he's like, wait, you're on 0 medications, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have high cholesterol, all your blood work looks good. I was like, yeah, I get all that, but sometimes when I work out, my heart rate stays elevated for a while. Is that normal? His response was like, well, the heart's a muscle, so it's probably okay. Okay, but there's got to be a threshold where I was like, if I continue to push my heart that much, is it bad? Like there's got to be a time where it's like, I'm working out at my maximum heart rate for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours of just pounding my heart. Can't be good. I mean, that's my thinking. Then I realized he wasn't going to give me nutrition advice, wasn't going to give me any advice. It was just like, he's like, you know what, we'll just check it in a year. I even said to him, let's do it in 6 months and just re-look at stuff. Like, I was pushing up the timelines, but I don't even know if I'm gonna go back to that. This is the website I want you guys to write down. And so here's your project for tonight, tomorrow, this week, is take your cabinets, and I like going room by room. So if you have start with the bathroom, let's say, right? Go in your bathroom, take everything out of the drawers. It's nice like spring cleaning you're gonna do here too, but take everything out of the drawers and put it on your table. So take it all out of the bathroom, put it on a table. Maybe set up a little picnic table, something like this, or your kitchen table. That way it forces you to first and foremost see all the crap that you have. Second though, look at stuff that you can just immediately throw away. You're like, yep, don't even need to look it up. If there's things you're like, oh, I'm not sure, like Q-tips, for example. Like, hey, are these something that I should use? That might be a tricky one, but I would, like, here's where my brain goes. It's like, well, is it 100% cotton? Is that cotton organic? Was it bleached? Like, there's some things, it's like, don't get that slippery with it, but just little things like, all right, what's in there? Like shaving cream and stuff that you go, all right, let me look it up. You go on this website, there'll be a search bar, or at the top, there'll be either this, so what I circled, EWG Skin Deep Guide to Cosmetics, and then you're gonna type in the product. For the most part, most of them will show up. If they don't, there might be limited data on certain ones of those. You can ask me or bring them in. And for the most part though, you guys that were here last time, you got that sheet that has all the brands that we recommend. And if you didn't, just stop by at the front, we'll try to get that for you. But that has like, just use those so you don't even have to look up stuff because we know about those. And then here's what you'll find. So when you do these searches, it comes up with stuff like this, which is cool. So it'll rank things. We want them to be a 0, 1, or a 2. That's green. If you see anything like this, those are bad. So I took a generic like shampoo here, and then it tells you like overall hazards. I wish we could read some of this stuff, but it tells you like levels of toxicity. It ranks it. So I don't even need to move past this. But if you were curious, because you're like, wow, I've been using, probably is like Head and Shoulders, right? You're like, oh, I've been using Head and Shoulders for 15 years, right? Now you might look at it and go, wait, what does that cause? Oh, here's the high concerns. Cancer, can't read these. Endocrine disruptors. Let me see if I don't know if you guys can see this. Skin irritation, organ system toxicities. Moderate concerns are, so those are the high concerns. Cancer, no big deal, right? That's just in there. Endocrine disruptor. Endocrine means like hormone disruptors. So imagine you're using that shampoo for 15 years and you're like, man, my hormones have been off for a long time. That's just one product that you've been using for that long that's been affecting your hormones for that amount of time. Imagine the 17,000 other ones that once you pull out your bathroom. So then move from your bathroom to your cleaning cabinets, right, or your kitchen. Go room by room, and even rooms you might not think about it, like your bedroom. You're like, well, what could be toxic in my bedroom? Well, look at, again, if you have a plug-in in the wall, right? If you have scented candles in your bedroom, right? There's still stuff where you're like, I'm breathing that in. So, well, I never burn them. You don't think if you go up and smell that it's not leaving off a scent? It is. It may not be major where you walk in the room and smell it, but it still is. So let's get rid of it. Now, can you find things that are scented that are good for you? Yes. Essential oils, because those are from plants, right? They're just squeezed down plants. That's what I like about essential oils. You don't have to worry about that stuff. They're edible. That's your homework project. So solutions, here's some of the things, and this should all be on those sheets, the companies and things to use. So, and a lot of these are again, European type company. They're not American companies. Some of them are. But then I just gave you a couple examples of what we use or what I've used over the years. Best thing too, I always mark like create your own. Like you can find recipes for like lotions, for example, where you're like, oh, I mix coconut oil, I mix shea butter and a little essential oil. And you mix it into a jar or whatever. Like Dr. Allison's actually really good at stuff like that, where then I know the 3 ingredients that's in here and I know when I made it, right? There's no other questions that I have to know, and you could technically eat that, but rubbing that on your body, excellent. So again, a couple pictures just so you kind of see what's in my drawers. There's shampoo, there's detox bath stuff like Epsom salt stuff, the soap I use. This was makeup, so from 100% pure. Dr. Sydney, I know the doctors use Beauty Counter. That's another one that's big that people are moving over. Now, be careful with brands in general, though, that you still want to look them up. So we wrote them on there, but the overall brand might not be perfect, right? They might have 3 or 4 products that are like, ooh, that's a 3 or 4 on the toxicity or a 7 on the toxicity. So be careful in that too, because sometimes we overgeneralize and say like, yeah, Dr. Bronner's is great, and then you find one product that's like, oh, they put something weird in that one, right? Sunscreen, this one's pretty good, Badger, so we looked that one up. That's a good one if you're looking at sunscreen, but what was my stance on sunscreen in general last time? Did we talk about that? Yeah, am I a big fan of it? Why am I not a big fan of sunscreen, especially this version of it? Banana Boat, major brand, major company. I guarantee when you look up this, you will find things like hormone disruptors, cancer causers in this. Now, what is this trying to prevent? At least marketed to you guys or on paper? Skin cancer, right? And if there's ingredients in here that are carcinogenic, do you see a problem with that? Wouldn't that be an aha to go, maybe I shouldn't rub this into my skin, then heat it up with the sun all day and just get fried? I'm driving it deeper into my bloodstream and I'm reapplying this. Great marketing for them, because when you get skin cancer from this, not the sun, guess what they tell you to put more on and scare you further away from? The sun that God designed versus this that we designed. It's just idiotic to me. And now, don't get out there and get fried like our friend Heather was a couple weeks ago. When you turn red, guys, that's the body's way of saying it's too much. So I'm not saying the sun's perfect and you just bake. I'm saying there's a way to do it where it's like, okay, you turn a certain color, you get out of it, right? Cover yourself up. This is a bit, I put this in here just because it's a big one. To do your research on this, guys. It's weird for me because I don't use these, and so I haven't really dove deep into it. But I did have a guy that came and he was like just insanely passionate about this, which I thought was weird. But he sent me a video that I was like, holy cow! Like I've never even considered this, right? But for women that, again, have a lot of hormonal issues and all these like infertility and weird cycles and different things where you're just like, well, that's just my body and that's just how it's supposed to be. This is a big player in it and needs to be changed. Skin and lymphatic system. So what can you do too just to help detox it? You guys familiar with dry brushing? It's just a hard brush. Let me see if there's a picture of it. So it's just a hard brush that you brush your skin towards the heart. Okay? When you're on the heart area, you do circles, like your armpits, like where the lymphatic system is essentially your drainage system. It's like kind of, I always think of it like the dumpsters where it like pulls junk out of it. So that's why when you get swollen lymph nodes, it's like your body has been beating stuff up for a while that's been put in there. Like when we're sick, they swell up because there's so much waste from killing viruses and bacteria that they get in there. So you want to brush them because you still want to eliminate the stuff. You don't want them to be stagnant. Now they become stagnant when you don't move either. So movement's critical. So I put dry brushing, sweating, Epsom salt baths, rebounding, and vibration. So the dry brushing, it tells you some of the benefits of that. 10 times each area, it tells you some of that if you guys want to know a little bit more. It's a simple, just again, search it. But it's great for your skin to exfoliate it, but it's also great for the fluid underneath. Now what else is great for the fluid and lymphatic system? Massage. Jazz is incredible. So as far as if you're looking for like, again, I think everybody should be on some level of massaging their body just to move fluid around and get into the deep spots. That's where her skill set comes into big time, and especially for like cancer patients, pregnancy patients, anybody with swelling, you need to get fluid moving. Any stagnant fluid, just like ponds, right? Any moving water, very good. Any water that's not, bugs, junk. Sweat's good. So at least growing up, I thought, oh, you need the antiperspirant, like stop the sweating. So a lot of people still use deodorants that stop sweating. Again, think about that. Why would the body sweat? It's trying to get stuff out. Not only that, it's incredible for your kidneys, because you know how people get the kidney stones, so where's the salt go if you're not getting it out through your skin and or through feces? It ends up in the urine, right? It ends up in the kidneys. Well, if you're not sweating ever, it's a big deal to get sweating. Now you can, what's a good way to sweat?
Work out.
Move, right? Yeah, work out. And people are like, yeah, I work out. Well, are you sweating when you work out? If you're not sweating when you work out, you're moving. You're not working out, right? So movement's still good, but try to up your workout to the point where you're like, your body should start heating up to sweat. Does that make sense? Like I know people, and I give Dr. Allison a hard time. She sweats though, but I still we'll sometimes catch each other at the gym working out, and I go, you're just moving. You're not working out. You got to work out harder. So you want to be sweating. You want to be pushing things through your body. An easy concept, if you're not a gym person, is the burst style. This very quickly gets people into a elevated heart rate and maximizes your post results of working out. So it's on, off very rapidly. You're going to work out as hard as you can for 20 seconds, rest for 20 seconds, as hard as you can for 20 seconds, rest for 20 seconds. Hard as you can. You see where you could do that for 3 minutes and know how out of shape you really are. But I could take an Olympic athlete, do the same thing, and as long as they're pushing themselves, they will also get those same sort of results where you're not letting your body rest. So like sometimes people go to the gym, they do a workout, right? Then they walk around and look in the mirror and they flex, and then everything's cooled back down. Then they go back, do another set. They're not getting the heart rate elevating. They're doing things like this where it's essentially, they look at like how oxygen and how your anaerobic and aerobic systems work. You want to burn through as much sugar as you can fast. That's what that does during workout. So it's the fast energy. You tell me to sprint across the parking lot, I'm going to use whatever energy I have fast, right? So I'm going to burn through all the sugar so that then when I'm done working out, what does my body have left to burn for energy? Fat. Versus going for a stroll and just walking, I don't need to burn through sugar because I don't need fast energy. So they'll tell you like, oh, going for a walk, you're in the fat burning zone, right? You've heard of that? Which is fine during the walk. So say you walk for 30 minutes. Now when you stop walking, guess what you stop burning? And you go back to keeping fat. The difference and the analogy or the visual that you guys need to look at is a sprinter. Think of a sprinter's body from the Olympics. They're lean, they're ripped, there's not an ounce of fat on those guys. Then look at a marathoner from the Olympics. What body type would you rather have? And they're complete polar opposites. The sprinter runs for 10 seconds to a couple minutes. The marathoner runs for hours. And they're usually thin, but pretty flabby. They're not, there's not a lot, and at that level, a little different, but just in general, look at walkers and joggers versus sprinters, and the body type's different. The sprinting spikes your heart rate. You don't get enough time to bring it back to zero. Spike it again, spike it again, spike it again. Now you have up to 24 to 36 hours of fat burning. That's the style you want versus going for a walk, brings you up a little bit, and then as soon as you're done walking, you're back down to here. See the difference in that? And this took 6 minutes to 10 minutes to 3 minutes in all reality. This took 30 minutes to an hour. We just don't want to do that. We don't want to push ourselves, right? I'm like, hey, go run sprints. Nobody really likes that, but hey, go for a walk for 30 minutes. Now, if you're not exercising at all, guys, I'm not trying to harp on walking. I'm just trying to tell you guys there's a more effective way to push your body and get better results in a shorter amount of time. Does that make sense? Don't stop don't leave here and say, Dr. Tom said don't walk. Do whatever you do to move, but if you want to get better, do that. And that's going to get you into that fat burning. Somebody asked me about like saunas. I'm a fan of the dry or infrared saunas. I'm not a fan of the steam ones. Why am I not a fan of the steam ones as much? What water are they using? And what are you breathing in the whole time you're there? And they heat the body up completely different. Okay? This is more like the sun, where it's going to penetrate the skin and heat you up and inside out, versus a sauna heats the air to 200 degrees, and then it has to penetrate you, which pushes the water and steam into your body. And you still will sweat, but you're still absorbing stuff along the way. So this diagram shows you like the difference. The infrared sauna, the person's body gets hot, and that's what you want for metabolic purposes. In a traditional sauna, the environment's hot and just your surface level gets hot. So that's why all the rave about infrared. And I like the full spectrum ones. The far rays are great, but then there's companies that make a full spectrum. I have one at my house that's full spectrum. That's nice. And again, it's another way to like force sweating, force detoxification, cellular health. Great stuff.
Are there certain gyms that have those?
I haven't looked in particular gyms, but I know gyms have the dry saunas. You just have to ask them what's the source of heat. Because then, you know, if it's the EMF, if it's electric, you got to kind of look at some of that too, because then there's like, oh, am I getting radiated during this? But that's where I still prefer that over the traditional. And you don't have to get as hot in that one. Those get up to like 130 degrees. Cleaning supplies, hall of shame. I'm going to buzz through these. They're pretty obvious. People use this a lot. Damages red blood cells, suggests dilution, yet comes in a spray bottle. So who's diluting that, right? So on there it'll say like, yep, you should dilute this, but it's in a spray bottle. You're going to take the time to like dump some of that? No, you're going to spray that and use it, right? Banned in Europe. Spick and span, multi-surface, disrupts hormones, toxic aquatic life, banned in Europe. Scrubbing bubbles. So these are all things like, this is my cabinet growing up, right? My parents had all this stuff. Irritates and inflames the lungs, banned in Europe. And it's not just the time you're using it too, guys. It's like you've used it, it's still there, and now you're in the shower, and every time it's in, you're breathing a little bit of it in. You're breathing a little bit of it in. This people use a lot. Inhalants are abused by 1 to 5 teens. Tuck that in there because like this is something they're using to get high off of now, which I'm sure when you guys were young, you did some weird stuff too. But let's get rid of this. It disrupts hormones, respiratory effects. Linked to cancer, can cause asthma. It's just weird that it's weird that we're living in a culture that a virus right now is shutting down a country, and this stuff right here we're not talking about it. Whereas if we truly cared about people's health, when we find out there's things that cause cancer in a product, wouldn't that be the first thing to be like, stop the sale of all of those. Stop the sale of all foods that don't build health. Stop this. I mean, to me, there's some very obvious things that we should be stopping the sale of that shows you how ridiculous the last year has been overall. Released 89 air contaminants in this, so a great variety of chemicals that this pushes out there. Most scented stuff, guys, hormone issues. Hormone, all the time messes with your body. So here's some of the things to use: Norwex, essential oils, BioClean, make your own. Again, you can use, so are you guys familiar with Norwex? It's a nice, it's literally just cloths that have like colloidal silver in them. You just have to wet them and wipe down. And then you have different varieties of those. You can clean those. So you don't have to, they're as non-toxic as it gets. Making your own stuff, using essential oils, using vinegar, using lemon, that's always nice. And again, you don't have to go crazy. As much as the world wants you to think you got to sanitize life, you don't, right? No animals sanitize anything. No animals die of infectious stuff, rarely ever. And if so, it's something we screwed up that made their bodies sick. Here, if you want to shoot a picture of this, if you use essential oils, here's a couple different varieties on how you would create these cleaning supplies. So an all-purpose one, you'd use lavender, lemon, tea tree, hot water, and a 1/4 cup vinegar. If you want a bathroom spray, you want floors, you want an air freshener, that's how you can kind of make your own. And then here's what's in it. And not only that, the side effects of those are benefits, not side effects that are negative. Okay. Another thing to consider, laundry detergent. Never would have thought of that, but look into your laundry detergents, scented stuff, look at the chemicals in that. Again, if it's name brand, don't use it. You know what the most toxic thing in your house is? Dishwasher. I forget what it was. It's something about, and especially it's like right after opening it, that gas that's built up in there that we breathe in is like one of the most toxic things that you can do or breathe in on a daily basis. So dishwasher detergent is a big one to make sure to change. Medications. This one should be obvious, but I don't think it is. Now, don't go home and throw your medications out, okay? Disclaimer, right off the bat. I can't take you off medications. It's not in my license to do that, but I can tell you how to get healthy so that you don't need medications. Fair? It is the leading killer in the United States that's not talked about, is our medical system and medications that we are taking. So it's the number one cause of toxicity overall. I always give the example of like, if I started taking medications, right? I'm like, everything's normal, my blood work, everything looks good, but I was like, you know what? I want to just start taking some medications just to prevent some stuff. Do I get healthier or sicker? Every single time. There is not a medication that exists that improves health or function. Not one. Don't let your doctors convince you that it does. Now, why do I say that? Does it do what it says it will do? Yes, that's how it makes it to market. You have high cholesterol. If the medication brings it down, it's doing what it says it's doing. But is it also telling you that it's weakening your heart because it's a muscle, that it's depleting CoQ10, a major nutrient for the heart, so that it's more people die with low cholesterol than high? Do they tell you that? Never, but it does lower your cholesterol, and you're happy, your doctors are happy, but cholesterol is one of the major things that our bodies actually need. You know what your brain's mostly made up of? You know what your nervous system's mostly made up of? Cholesterol. So when they start telling people to take cholesterol medications without identifying cause, which is most of the time diet, which everybody knows, they just pop you on it, and then you start losing your mind. You start losing your memory. Your joints start hurting because your ligaments are mostly cholesterol. You start seeing all these side effects, but you go into your doctor and your numbers look great. Guys, I don't want to press this too much, but we have to start empowering people to make better choices because the obvious is there, and we need more logical people more than ever right now to realize you cannot continue to put toxins in a body to get somebody healthier. It never works, right? And so there's no medication that exists. They all have consequences. They're just the things they don't want you to know about, right? So yes, it does what it says, but it also does all kinds of other crap that hurts you. So then the plan would be, let's just get to a point where you might need it temporarily, right? There are crises. Need it right now, doc. Thank you. Saved my life. What's my plan to get off of it? These are the types of things you got to be asking your doctor. There isn't a plan when they put you on it, there isn't a plan to get you off of it. You should ask for one. If they don't give you one, then you need to find another doctor that will. Or at least that's what I would do, right? We take 80% of the world's drugs. We should be the healthiest country if that's working. We are not. We are actually one of the sickest countries. Of all the industrializations, I think last I looked, we were ranked 37th. Guys, I can't even name 36 countries, number one. To rank 37 when we have access to so much, that's a crappy system that we want more access to. You know, I want more access for you guys to have health savings account to spend them on places like gyms, Whole Foods, supplements, chiropractic, massage. That's what we should be pushing for. You guys should, here's what would be awesome. A bank account for your health that you get, whatever, $5,000 a year, and that's what you get for your health. And you keep banking it from birth to death and use it for however you want. And I can promise you, those that invest in things that get them healthy, stay healthy. Those that wait for sickness will be using that all at once for a surgery as their doctor's cutting open their chest or they have cancer. But it's just, we got to make significant changes in that. I get too fired up about that stuff. Any questions on medications? Here's a couple did you knows that you won't find anywhere, but have been published. 1 ibuprofen a day for 5 years increased risk of cancer by 50%. I'd want to know that if I'm taking ibuprofen or have that in my medicine cabinet. 1 aspirin a day for 5 years, which they're telling people no big deal. Take a baby aspirin, thins your blood. It's like a supplement. It's not a supplement though, because it's a chemical, and so it has consequences. And in this case, it increased risk of breast cancer by 80% for those people. My crazy concept is find the root cause or causes, fix those, get healthy enough to not need medication. That's the strategy I'm on. Been on it for 15 years. Since I started learning stuff, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I still screw things up. But I know if my body's talking to me via symptoms, I'm not turning to that unless I absolutely have to, right? Again, I always say it, like if I get hit by a car, I'll take some medication. Give me some surgeries. Other than that, it has to be a crisis for me to even consider medical anything because they don't know anything when it comes to health. And they'll be the first to tell you that, honestly. They don't want to see you guys. When it comes to like tough decisions, like, oh, you're in here on an ambulance because you have so much stuff going on, they got to do the best they can for you. So other things that you can use instead of medications, there are herbs that are better. There are essential oils that are better. There are supplements that are better. There are things that you're like, man, I'm nervous about coming off this blood pressure medication or cholesterol medication. Then you look up things that are supplements that help maybe lower or monitor your blood pressure as you come off of it. But those, like blood pressure pills to me, I think is one of the easiest things to come off of you can measure your blood pressure. So you don't even need a doctor for that. Measure your blood pressure, right? Stay on your pills, measure your blood pressure, get data points for a week. Hey, I take my pills consistently, my blood pressure looks like this. The following week, now that if this is me, so I'm not telling you guys to do this, this is what I would do. I'd then cut the pill in half, and then I'd keep measuring my blood pressure. Why? Because I'd want to know, what does it look like compared to full dose from last week? Oh, it still looks pretty good. Now, in the meantime, I'm making changes. You guys making changes. You're getting adjusted. That is a change. You might not have made any dietary changes, may not have made any exercise change, but you're at least getting adjusted. That's one change. Now you say, I'm drinking more water. Now I'm eating a little bit better. Guess what's going to happen to that blood pressure? It continues. All of a sudden, week 4, you're like, I'm going to try not taking a pill. And if the numbers still look good, why would you continue to take it? That's what I always think. And your doctor will say, but yeah, but stay on it because, well, doc, I'm now monitoring and measuring it and it still looks good. So I'm going to do this for a while and have it as a backup, right? That's what I mean, call me crazy. Essential oils, dental care, 7:45, I'm not doing bad. I'm almost done, but again, feel free. Toothpaste is a big one. Don't use fluoride. It's a neurotoxin. They've taken it out of the water supplies. I think in Europe they've removed it. I told you guys that when we talked water last time, I have my whole house water filter eliminates all fluoride that comes in. So this is a big one at dentists where they're like, yeah, do you want your fluoride treatment or use your fluoride stuff? It strengthens your teeth. Maybe it does, right? I don't know. I'm not a dentist, but I'm not sacrificing my brain for my teeth. Does that make sense? What affects your teeth is really your diet. So what strengthens your teeth is really your diet. It's not fluoride, right? We weren't born and go, you know what? I'm going to design a dentist at some point where they're going to tell you fluoride treatments are going to save your teeth. No, God built us to eat a certain way that if you do that, your teeth are fine. So that makes, now if you screw everything up and your teeth start to weaken, it's not because you're missing fluoride. Just know that. Okay, that's the takeaway here. So I like activated charcoal toothpaste. That's a good one. There's other ones out there. I use a Dr. Bronner's right now. But I like that because anything activated charcoal, it binds to toxins too. So like if you guys poison yourself, the doctors will give you like a charcoal sort of thing that they would immediately put in your body that looks for toxins, and it's a great binder to eliminate. So it's nice to just do that in your teeth. If there is anything weird in your mouth, you can do that. Heavy metals I want to touch on because it's a complex sort of thing and it's scary. But I kind of already mentioned the fact that like if you have mercury or amalgam fillings, the silver fillings in your mouth, it may be your next step in health to get those addressed. They're sneaky. They leach all the time. They need to be taken out correctly. There's a lot of things when it comes to this that, again, mercury is 100% toxic. Most heavy metals are, And then as it builds up, it gets passed on generation after generation, and it's getting scarier and scarier. But these are things that like just never even consider, because you're like, I eat perfectly, I exercise, I da-da-da. And it's like, but I have chronic fatigue. I have no energy. My thyroid's destroyed. My hormones are off. And it's like, you have a mercury toxicity. Now, when they test for this too, guys, you have to do a challenge test to find it. The only way you find mercury, unless you were like exposed, like you dropped a thermometer, which is funny, and you touched it, they would find it, within hours of that. But they don't find this because it binds into your body. So it's not floating around in your bloodstream. It's too dangerous. So you could be like, yeah, doc, I want to get my mercury. I want to see if I have any heavy metals. If you don't do a challenge test, what that means is it loosens it up. It frees it up from your body and puts it back in the bloodstream, which makes you feel crappy. But then they can test that and find your levels. And then it's like, okay, now you have to either chelation, and there's some pretty advanced things that have to happen there. And again, a lot of this stuff, guys, I wish I could do for you and guide you on. I know people that are experts in these various areas. It's above my pay grade to know exactly how to walk you through some of this stuff. But take a picture of this. This is if you're thinking about getting your amalgams out, how to choose a dentist. And your dentist will be like, yeah, I take them out. So you could ask any dentist, like, yeah, of course I could take out your amalgam fillings. But if they're not focused on the danger of when you're drilling into those and how they're off-gassing and what protocols and things you need to do leading up to the takeout and then post-takeout, that's one of those things you want the right dentist. Now, there are holistic dentists that exist, just like there are holistic doctors, but you just don't, most people aren't familiar with them because I didn't know about them until like 10 years ago. So went 25 years, 27 years not knowing. One thing you can do on a daily basis if you want is oil pulling, which is just taking a spoonful of coconut oil. Toxins love fats, as I mentioned last class, so you just swish it around your teeth. You swish it around your teeth, it cleans your teeth, it pulls toxins out. You just swish it around for about a minute. Well, it says 15 minutes. It's a long time. I never do 15 minutes. If you can, great. It's a lot of saliva. So I usually do about a minute when I do that. Okay, I'm going to touch on this. That's the detox system. It's got the two things to eliminate the retox. Part one, essentially somewhat like I said in mercury, it frees up, not mercury, but loose toxins, gets them out of the cells. Then part two is what is the activated charcoal. That's that body detox side of it. You take that later at night. That's what binds to and eliminates. So that's why there's two parts to the system. It's a 30-day supply. You guys that come to the classes get a little bit of a discount. Yeah, you get it for $45. I think it normally is $55 or $50, somewhere in there. So if you do want to get those, you can order those tonight. Some of them we might have, some of them we can just order and you guys can pick them up. I know a lot of you guys already started taking that, but that's an easy thing. I put this up here to end just I have questions, and I just leave this one up there. Just stuff to think about. So tonight we went through fairly quickly, and that, to note, was an hour and what, 20 minutes? Thank you. Yeah, thank you. But I'll stay and answer any questions you guys have. But I put that back up here just so you guys start thinking. Your homework project tonight and tomorrow and this week is to continue the journey of identifying what's poisoning you, right? There's a lot. I mean, it is. It's a lot, right?
We've got all of it.
It's exactly it. And it's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming. But like I said, don't judge yourself right now. A month from now, a year from now, you are going to be happy that your kitchen looks different, your cabinets look different. Like these products, you just won't even consider going down those aisles, right? I don't even go down the aisle that any of this crap sold. One, you're breathing in all this stuff. But two, I don't even consider getting that stuff, right? A lot of it now is all online or Whole Foods or somewhere where like the stores are conscious of what my body needs and wants.